All right, I'm gonna get started here, you guys. Real quick, I just wanted to run through this real quick. Caroline sent this to me, and I thought it'd be useful for you guys. It's something you can share with providers, new providers, or any providers that need some help with training. It goes through timeline expectations, entering schedules, how to assign therapists, no-show policies, which you'll need to update for your school's specific policy, therapist absence, document requirements, invoice requirements, evaluations. So I'll go ahead and send this out with the recording and the presentation from this meeting so you guys can share that as needed. All right, I went with a Valentine's Day theme today. Reminders and updates. No-show report. We have a new column for service has ended, yes or no. So you guys can see um, which services are active and which ones are ended on that report. Providers have their own withdrawal list now. This came about because of our fun little glitch last week where all those withdrawal emails were sent out and a lot of the students weren't actually withdrawn. So now they'll have a list, just like we have a list on our end, they'll have a list on their side that they have to review before, and they'll have to clear out students so they can come to you and confirm. Um, and this is replacing that automatic email. So they're not going to get an automatic email, but with that withdrawal list, if they ever try, what's that?
They're going to get both. So this is to help. Yeah, this is going to help for those people that say, oh, we never got the email because their server blocked it or something. Now it's kind of like twofold, or they hire new people, and the old person is the one that's getting the notifications.
Okay.
So they're going to kind of have like a double. You can't say you never got it because it's on your home screen too.
Right, yeah. So if they ever try to invoice for something after a student's withdrawn and they say, oh, we didn't know it was withdrawn, you can say, well, it's on your home screen.
Yeah.
You need to check RSM. Let's see. And then the escalating of national provider issues, instead of, hi Tina, welcome back. Instead of emailing provider services at k12.com, just email me or Caroline or related services and let us know if there are issues and we'll escalate it to them from there. We're trying to see if that'll be more effective. And then a quick reminder for you guys to reply all to your Friday summaries because that was an issue for a little bit. But it seems like that's gotten a lot better. Whoops. So thank you for getting better at that. We're updating our Trello boards. This is one of my favorite quotes. And I had to look up who said it. Some French engineer, Antoine something there. Perfection is achieved not when there's nothing more to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. So we've been going through Trello boards. The regional team met. We talked it over with the national team, and we're compiling certain tasks. We're grouping other tasks together. We're archiving other ones, and then we're going to move some to monthly. We've already started meeting with people to review their school's boards. So if you haven't met yet, expect that we're going to be meeting to review that soon. K-12 recruiting lines. Just some reminders about this. The start date is the date that you assign K-12. and the end date is the date that the RPI card is added to Trello. And you should also get an email from Lena, sometimes from Dustin. This is because that's the way we track how quickly they're finding providers. And if you need to reopen it, you can always extend the end date and make a note of the first RPI card and that provider didn't work out, whatnot. Make sure you're following up with the recruiters often if you haven't heard anything from them after a few days. And once the K-12 line has ended, once they give you that RPI, make sure you create a new service line that matches the IEP dates if you haven't already. Some schools have a line that's not assigned to a provider that matches the IEP dates in addition to that K-12 recruiting line. To begin with, if you don't have both to begin with, once you end the K-12 line, make sure you create the actual student service line that will be assigned to the new provider. You're not going to have a provider assigned until that contract is finalized, and I'd recommend waiting until they have a therapist that you have credentials for, because a lot of times providers will get a referral and they don't know our process, and so they'll just send that information to the therapist before we have their information. So I would recommend waiting until the contract is finalized and you have a therapist ready through RSM. But it's going to be a good reminder that having that service line with no provider assigned, you're going to see it every time you pull that ASSR and go, yeah, I need to follow up on that contract. I need to get back to that provider and show them how to get an RSM. And it's just going to make sure that that service doesn't fall through the cracks once K-12 has found a provider for you guys to contract with. Any questions about that? My voice is a little scratchy today, you guys, so sorry if I sound a little bit like a bullfrog. I think I have some extra pollen around here or something. Okay, manuals. Our new template's going to be rolling out in March. So be ready for that. Can you believe it's already time to be talking about this? But there are some things you can start doing now. Mainly, what I'd like you guys to really be thinking about is your school policies and procedures, any changes that have been made that are going to need to go into the manual. And you can start updating the related service info board on Trello with the specific policies and procedures so that you can basically copy and paste it into your manual once the template's ready. The policies that I want you guys really to focus on right now: attendance and no-shows. Did your school make any changes or tweaks this year to that policy? Review what you have now in your current manual and see, is it specific enough? Is there more information, or were there changes? Your invoice process. Make sure you're including specific contacts and deadlines and timelines. And then the invoice verification. What information do you need for therapy notes when providers are submitting their invoices? What is your school's policy for mileage maps? What requirements are needed? Some states are starting to require signatures on therapy notes. So, think about those things. Credential requirements. This is going to be a topic of discussion at our data days next week. Caroline should have sent out that list of credential requirements that we have on file in RSM or on the RS Info board. I want you guys to be talking about that with your special programs managers, because the manuals need to have these listed, and a lot of them do not have that listed. Some other hot topics that came up this year through various schools were students that were going to be out of state for some time. Maybe they're shared custody, or a parent that travels for work and they had to be out of state. What is your state's policy on those? And we want to really kind of get that detailed into the manuals this year, as well as hospitalizations. Can services be put on hold in your state if a student is hospitalized? A lot of the schools are using the template from our manual, but we need to know what your state actually says. So those are the things you can be looking at and thinking about right now before we really get into updating the manuals with the template. Does anyone have questions on this? I know it's a lot. I'm going to send this out to everyone so you can have this list. All right. All right, the monthly task I wanted to review this week is the financial forecast, CPR, fiscal forecast, all the wonderful names for this super fun task. You're going to be getting the preview this week, and then the final one that goes out to all the finance will be going out next week. So it's a little early this month. It's a short month, and I think the financial department has some things going on. So we're going to be sending out those final ones at the end of next week. So CPR stands for Cost Prediction Report, and it predicts the cost of services for the school year. This is really a tool for finance so that they can budget and plan for the related services costs throughout the year. And your job with this report is just to make sure the data is accurate so that finance can plan accordingly. If the data is off, then they're not going to be able to plan with accurate numbers. So you just need to investigate. Make sure that you're reading this description. Don't just turn off the things that we have highlighted. You really need to look into each service. So if it's yellow, it's AC time or ESY. You need to say, you need to look in, if it's an AC time and it's ended, are the hours still owed? A lot of times, yes. So you don't want to just turn the CPR off on that. You'll want to go in and extend the end date so that the provider can still bill for that AC time. ESY time, a lot of schools don't consider that time owed, so those can usually be turned off. But you need to look into and dig into each line. Don't just turn them off when they're highlighted. And these are the questions that you really want to answer. So use this tab and these questions to really guide you on what the purpose is for those particular lines. When on that first page of the financial forecast report, you have this box at the bottom, and we have predictive view 1 that shows the CPR, and then the predictive view 2, the extended CPR. And you can see this number, 432,000, is a lot higher than 463,000. So we're going to talk about just the difference between extended and regular CPR. So the CPR assumes that all services are going to be billed, and this includes AC, ESY, regular, evals, any one-time services, and your regular services. So if there is a service that is never going to be billed on, or all of the billing has already been received for it, that's when you can turn off the CPR. The extended CPR is only looking at regular recurring services, like, for example, occupational therapy face-to-face, 30 minutes a month, And let's say the service line goes from September to March. The extended CPR is going to assume it's not going to go just from September to March, but rather from September to June, from the first day of school to the very last day of school. So that's why it only looks at regular recurring services and none of the one-time services or the AC, because it's trying to take into account the fact that this service is probably going to be extended to the end of the year once an IEP meeting is held. So when you're looking at turning off the extended CPR, you're only really going to look at what's blue and what's green, because these are going to be your regular recurring services. You don't have to turn it off for ESY or AC. Raquel, you really don't have to turn it off for the one-time services because the extended CPR report is only looking at regular recurring services. So you can save yourself some time by not worrying about turning it off on those. So when would you turn off the extended CPR? Most often it's going to be when there's a new frequency and you end an old line and create a new line. So now when you do that, the extended CPR report is saying that the old line is going from the beginning of the year to the end of the school year, and the new line is going from the start date to the end of the school year. So it's kind of counting that service twice because there's two lines for that student. So when there's a new frequency and you create a new service line, you want to update the old service line and turn off that extended CPR so that it doesn't keep counting from the beginning to the end of the year for that service. Another time you would turn it off is if a student's discharged, because that service isn't going to be billed through the end of the school year. Or same as if it's a parent decline service. Again, it's not going all the way through the end of the school year, and only on regular recurring services. Do you guys have questions about that? Because I know that's a lot, and it's one of those concepts that just takes time to really understand. All right. This next section is going to be talking about timesheets, which is really only relevant for contractors. So everyone is welcome to stay, but school staff, you're free to go at this point because you guys don't enter timesheets in RSM. All right, so our timesheet categories, the ones that you guys are most often going to be, PETA, you're most often going to be using is referral management and invoicing. Meetings. Now meetings, when you have a meeting, whether it's like this meeting or a meeting with your special programs manager or a meeting with a provider, if it runs for an hour, just log like 15 minutes as a meeting, and then the rest of the 45 minutes you can clock as whatever it was you talked about. It was referral management. Maybe you were talking about invoicing for 15 minutes. Then attendance and comp time. Anytime you're working with like no-show, non-compliance, or AC lines, reviewing THO, you can use attendance for those. Contracts. I always forget about this one. Whenever I'm working on contracts, I always put it under provider management. And then I remember, oh no, wait, there's a contracts category. So just a reminder that that one's there. And then provider management, if you're training up a new provider, or if you're and renegotiating a contract, I guess that would still be contracts. I don't use that one often. Usually that I've only used that when there's a new provider that needs some training. Um, Data and reports. I know you guys pull a lot of data and reports, but most of your data and reports are dealing with referral management or provider management or attendance. So I would, you'd probably want to stick mostly with referral management. That's going to be the majority of your timesheet entries. You're rarely or never going to use this list. Training you'll use initially, but then hardly ever. So let's see. I wanted to share with you guys this timesheet template that I use for logging my hours. And I'll send this out with the meeting PowerPoint so you guys can have it. These are all drop downs, so you can select what day, select what school you're using, and then select which category. And the drop downs all use this tab, data validation, so you can update column A with your school or schools so that to make that one personal for you. And then I'll just put in, I actually have mine set up with a start time and an end time, and then I calculate how much time was spent. It's just easier for me to type in what time it is than to think, when did I start doing this? So, but you can do it this way where you just say, okay, I spent an hour working on attendance, the AC lines or whatever, 3 hours of referral management, blah, blah, blah. And I go through my week tracking my time like this. And then on the pivot table, up here, all the schools are selected, so I can easily, on IQ Navigator, I can easily see 5 hours on Monday, 5 hours on Tuesday, 6 hours on Wednesday, etc. But then when I go into RSM to enter timesheets, I can select each school, and I can see, okay, for CAVA, I did an hour of AC time. I did 2 hours of contracts and 5 hours of referral management. And then I'll just go through each of my schools like that. And that makes it easier for me to figure out how much I spent. I only have to put in one per category per school. I know the way Caroline does it is she kind of enters it right into RSM as she goes. And then, so for timesheets, she's put in an hour and a half of invoicing for Alva, and then today she puts in another half an hour. So she'll just edit and change it to 2 hours. So that's another way that you could do it. So just wanted to share that, and let me know if you guys have any questions about that. And that's all I have for you guys today.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, thanks. We'll see you in a couple weeks.